right. Okay. Well, hello everyone. Welcome. I am way better at playing saxophone than I am speaking. So, we're gonna see how this goes. I was actually joking, I think, with my husband. I'm like, maybe I should just play saxophone for an hour and you guys can interpret like my OCD experience from that because I feel like that would be so much better, at least less nerve-wracking for me. So, my name's Bryn. I am from Utah, and my husband Carson and I are actually moving to LA, so I'm also going through a move right now. We move officially next Monday, so I'm in the middle of packing and it's chaos anyways. So yeah, I guess I'll just kind of start with a little bit about myself and then kind of get into my OCD experience. So, um, like I said, I grew up in Utah from Pleasant Grove, which is kind of a small town, little area. Um, I am a saxophonist, and the reason I'm a saxophonist is because my dad is a saxophonist. So that's how I got into things. Um, so I grew up watching music, and that's pretty much, I just grew up around specifically jazz. I would go to his performances all the time. And then as me and my siblings got older, my older brother got into drumming and he was really good. And so then I got into saxophone, and then my two youngest sisters do vocals. So we're kind of a big musical family. And then, so I grew up, I started playing saxophone when I was 12. So it's been about 12 years that I've been playing. I'm 24 this year. So, yeah, all throughout junior high and high school, I did a lot of gigging and touring and performing through my dad's musical program that he has here in Utah. And I then went to BYU in Provo, studying music, and that's where I met my husband. And even though my dad said to never marry a musician, I did, and it's been great. So we got married 3 years ago. And so he is a music producer, so hence all the microphones in the background. And then I do saxophone and content creation, and it's been awesome. So we just graduated from BYU, both of us in our commercial music degrees about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then yeah, we moved to LA next week and see how it goes. So I guess from the beginning, I think not a lot of people can say like, oh, this is the exact day I started struggling with my mental health issues. But as I was thinking about it today, I'm like, I think I can pin it down to like the first day where it felt like things just kind of like, I don't know, like something went off in my brain. It definitely, I was 12, and going through puberty, right? And so obviously it's something chemical because it was summer, it was the beginning of summer after sixth grade, and I was at a friend's house, and all of a sudden I had just like this fear, like this thought, like intrusive thought pop into my head. And it like troubled me so badly that I had to like go home from that friend's house, and I like just, it became like this hyperfixation for me and this big fear. And I spent the rest of the summer pretty much I like was like locked in my room. I didn't talk to any of my friends. I didn't leave the house really because I was just so overwhelmed by this fear that I had. And so that's when I first started therapy too, was that summer when I was 12. And ever since then, it's been hard. So it's just kind of ironic, or not ironic, but just like funny that I can think of like the exact day it happened. But um, so I that summer was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, and I wasn't diagnosed with OCD until 2 years ago. So I went pretty much like 10 years with really severe mental health issues. Like it was like debilitating. Um, and I was misdiagnosed the entire time. And if I had been correctly diagnosed with OCD from the beginning, I think my life would have been honestly a lot easier if I'm being for real with that. I throughout the 10 years before I was diagnosed with OCD, I was very I was like on medication. I went to several different therapists. I read lots of different books, but it was like treating the wrong thing. And so I remember being like, what's wrong with me? Like I went to this therapist, but like this is just not helping. Like the therapist would be like, "Okay, yeah, tell me more about that." And I would talk the entire time, but I would leave not feeling any better. Like, and a lot of the things that I struggled with, um, I kind of just had to like force myself to do it, which now I know is exposure therapy. And so the only thing that would help was like making myself do something. Um, so I now know why. It's OCD. And so that's why I'm so passionate about talking about my OCD, is because I could not imagine going a day longer um, than I did, not knowing that I had OCD, because it really is life-changing. Knowing more about myself and not being afraid of my own thoughts. Um, because I mean, I think anybody with OCD can say it's really scary. And to be so misunderstood, even with yourself, um, and you just feel like you're going crazy and you have no idea what's going on, to then understanding, oh, this all makes sense. I have this therapist who's able to understand me. Um, it really is like life changing. And my quality of life in the past 2 years has gone up drastically, even just understanding myself. So when I was 12, I started just with like really like intrusive thoughts that were really scary to me. And um, I am Mormon, and I grew up in a very like strict household with that. And so you can probably guess that I struggle with scrupulosity. That's one of my themes. I think OCD and a high demand religion are really it's really hard to balance in a healthy way. Like I don't really know how to in a lot of ways. I still am active, but I've had to mm, almost like evaluate my entire relationship with God since I found out I have OCD, and how almost I had like a toxic relationship before because of the scrupulosity. So that summer I started struggling with scrupulosity and like just thinking I had these thoughts, and thinking I was going to be like God was mad at me like all the time for these intrusive thoughts I had, and I would come up with little rhymes in my head. And I was just 12. Like looking back, I feel so sad for myself. But I would like come up with these rhymes in my head to not say swear words because I was really worried I would say swear words. And so I would say funky monkey instead of the F word. So I'd say that over and over and over and over and over in my head. Um, or in different like just like variations of swear words to try to I mean, it was a compulsion. I would say prayers constantly in my head, like without even realizing it, as also a compulsion to like try to make sure God wasn't mad at me. So those are kind of things that started then, and then as my career with saxophone started taking off and I started performing, I I started getting a lot of like stage fright. And I've always had kind of a sensitive stomach, and I remember one day I had the thought that what if I throw up on stage? And my brain just like latched onto that. It was insane, to the point where I mean, I performed like at least once a week for pretty much all of junior high and high school, and I would throw up for started as like before every performance. Um like adjusting. And then it started to be like I would throw up every day. And I didn't really understand what was going on. I just like now that I know I was scared of being afraid. Like I was afraid of being afraid, and so then I would get anxious. I was scared that I would get scared enough that I would throw up, so then I would throw up, Like it was just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I would do it every single time and I didn't really understand what was going on though, and I was just like really really anxious and I felt sick all the time. And this was in 8th grade, I think. Um because I was just throwing up all the time and I got pretty like depressed and I lost a lot of weight and my stomach started just feeling sick that I just didn't really eat because I knew I was going to throw it up later. It just was this whole thing. And I went from like being worried that I was going to throw up on stage to then like being worried I'm going to throw up in any situation ever because I would throw up all the time. And so I would get really anxious going to the movies because I would be sitting there and I would have this thought, what if I threw up right now? That would be really embarrassing. And so then I would be so anxious that I would get up and go in the bathroom and throw up. So it was like really sad. And I lost a ton of weight and my mom took me to the doctor and they were like, "Oh, she's bulimic." And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm scared that I'm losing weight. Like I remember every time I would weigh myself, I would like lose another 5 pounds and it really scared me because it was like I didn't look healthy and I didn't want to keep losing weight and the doctor just wouldn't believe me and she told my mom and then my mom wouldn't believe me and so that was frustrating. I still feel pissed at that doctor for that. But so that was kind of a hyperfixation. And all throughout this, I was on medication and I was going to therapy, but the only thing that made it so I could perform again without throwing up was probably performing and throwing up before every performance for like at least like 6 years. And I just did it. I mean, I'm really proud of myself that I just did it. And it was never an option in my head, like, oh, just quit saxophone. Like, if you're so scared you're going to throw up when you're performing, just quit saxophone. That was like never an option for me. So I'm really proud about that. And I eventually just was able to be like, all right, well, I've done this so many times. I guess worst case scenario is I throw up in front of people, but I was able to like accept it. And then OCD didn't really have that control over me anymore. Um, so another theme that I struggled with was flying. And that is probably the biggest thing that I still struggle with to this day. Um, I also remember when I was maybe 11, um, or right when I turned 12, we flew out to Boston to visit my grandparents. And I remember enjoying the plane ride and being like, this is awesome, possum, and romanticizing it and listening to Zendaya and being like, this is so cool. Romanticizing my life. And then we came home, and I think my mom mentioned something how she was scared of heights. And in my head, I suddenly just latched onto, oh, then flying is unsafe. Because it's like, if my mom's scared of heights, I should be scared of heights. And what's the highest I go? It's flying. So since then, flying has probably been uh maybe the most distressing thing I've ever done. So when we flew again after that, I would have panic attacks on the plane. I would maybe throw up on the plane. It would distress me for weeks knowing that I had a small flight coming up. Um, and that's what I've been focusing on the past year in therapy. I mean, I'm 24 now and I still really struggle with it. I mean, it's ironic that, my biggest fear is flying and I'm a touring musician. So, kind of funny. You just have to laugh at that. But so yeah. But as I was going through junior high and high school, my therapists were just like, "Oh, you're just anxious and you have all these random phobias." And it pisses me off that I've been going to therapy and doing all the right things, that I should have been, and I was not diagnosed for so long. And that's what makes me so upset is like therapists should have a better understanding of symptoms of OCD. It would have changed my life if just right off the bat, the first therapist I saw was like, "Oh, this is signs of OCD. You have this obsession and compulsions, and let's get you the right therapy." And that just didn't happen for 10 years. And so they would be like, "Oh, well, you are just a hypochondriac." Because I do want to say, I'm like kind of all over the place with my thoughts, but my themes for OCD are scrupulosity, relationship, existential, and health. Those are kind of like my four main ones. And so like with health, I that's a whole other thing. But they're like, "Oh, you're just a hypochondriac, you just have a fear of flying, you just have blah 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 blah." And I'm just like, "Wow, I'm really messed up." Like for some reason I have all these weird random hyperfixations, and it just turns out that it was just OCD, and I just kind of at the core of it all, it surrounds death and like existence. Like that's kind of my biggest thing. Like the reason I'm so scared of flying is because I'm so scared of dying. The reason I'm so scared of health issues is because I'm so scared of dying. The reason that, I'm like, I have like relationship anxiety is because of like existence and like being alone. And so once I found that out, I mean, it all made sense, and that's when I was able to start finally improving. But so yeah, I just kind of went through high school being really scared of flying, um, having panic attacks whenever I would have to go to the doctor's office because I was worried they were going to diagnose me with cancer or a brain tumor, um, and different things like that. And then it wasn't until, let's see, I started, I graduated high school in 2020, the worst year to graduate ever. It sucked. And then I started my freshman year in college at BYU in fall of 2020. And my first time really like talking or living with someone who I didn't know I had OCD at the time, but my roommate, who I shared a room with, did. But hers was kind of the stereotypical, or what people think is stereotypical of like cleanliness. And I'm not a super picky person when it comes to cleaning. And she and I kind of butt heads because she was like, "I'm really OCD about how the room looks." And my side wasn't as clean as hers. And so we kind of like got in, I don't know, like she was just frustrated with me. And I'm like, "Oh, that sucks that she's OCD. Like, that would really suck to have OCD." Meaning, like, I just thought OCD meant cleanliness. Um, and then yeah, looking back, I'm like, oh, I also have OCD. And that was just really interesting that I was still so misinformed back then. And then I'm trying to think how I finally got OCD therapy and figuring out what it was. I think it was the summer my husband and I got married, so 2022. Um, I think I just was at like a really low point. Oh, I had a lot of health issues, and that was really, really hard for me. And someone who has like a lot of um health like obsessions, it was really, really, really difficult. And I was going to do an outpatient anxiety program. Like it got so bad that my mom was like, she didn't have a lot of money, but she was like, "I think you need to go do this program that costs thousands of dollars because like you just can't keep going like this." And I got pretty low. And so I had called this anxiety and OCD clinic thinking I just had anxiety, and to just like do like a little, I don't know, like they interviewed me to see if I would like qualify for the program or whatever. And at the end of the call with the guy that was interviewing me, he was like, "So you have OCD?" And I was like, "No, I don't." Like, "What?" Like, "Have you seen my room? It's not very clean." Like, I didn't understand what he meant by that. And so I kind of like did some more research into it, and I was like, oh, like it was so mind like boggling. I'm like, wow. The more I looked into OCD and compulsions and obsessive thoughts, I was like, oh wait, this totally is me. This all makes sense now. Like, and I decided to not go into the outpatient program, but just start up individual OCD therapy with a therapist near me who turns out this, I guess this is kind of something that pe therapists do. Um, is they say they are specialized in OCD, but they're not. And so he said he was. Looking back, he really wasn't. I think he knew that I needed to do like exposure therapy, but that was probably the extent of it. So, I guess also fun fact, I come from a family of therapists. My mom just got her master's. That's she I don't 2 years ago. So she's a practicing therapist. My grandpa, her dad is a psychologist, and then I have two uncles on her side who are also psychologists. So I come from a family of therapists, which is pretty cool. Music on one side, therapy on the other side. Um, anyways, so I started up with this guy, and that was when I first started, excuse me, finally mm, underst going down the right road. Looking back, like I only worked with him for like 6 months, and it really was helpful. I think specifically with flying, like he was starting to have me watch just videos of airplanes, and it was like somehow helping me feel a little bit better. And I think the main thing though was that I was finally understanding myself, and that was the most freeing thing ever. And then all of a sudden, I was actually in the middle of like working through specifically like some childhood trauma outside of my OCD with this therapist, and then I just got a text from his office that was just like, "Oh, this therapist is no longer working and you just don't get to work with him anymore." And it was kind of traumatizing a little bit because I had built such a relationship with him, and I was finally after like 8 years like making these breakthroughs within my mental health, and then this guy was just gone. And now looking back, I'm like, okay, that was such a blessing because I was able to find my now therapist, but it really was really difficult for me. And it felt like a big betrayal because he just didn't, I guess I didn't get to say goodbye. He like didn't say anything to me. We were in the middle, like right in the middle of it all, and then it just stopped. And I was like, okay, I have to find a new therapist now. And then I found my current therapist, Tanya, who I don't get to work with anymore because I'm moving to LA. But she really changed my life. Like, I started working with her last year, and that I think in the past year, I've probably made the most progress in my mental health and all my different hyperfixations and compulsions than I ever had. Like, in the past year, I've probably improved more so than I have in the past 10 years. Like, it really has absolutely changed my life. Um, and I guess that kind of goes to a testament of like if you have the right medicine, like medication combined with the right therapy, that's when you can really make changes. At least that's my understanding with like OCD. It's kind of hard, like medicine doesn't, at least in my experience, like having just medication wasn't enough for me. Like it helped me get to a place where I could handle OCD therapy and like ICBT and stuff like that, but like without the medication, I maybe wouldn't be in the headspace to even handle the exposures that I had, but it wasn't enough just on its own. And so once I met Tanya, I would walk away from every session feeling like she was the most intelligent person in the world. Like it felt like she was reading my head and like just telling me how things work. And so she taught me about, I mean, she was the one that kind of connected all the dots with all my different hyperfixations and OCD themes. Like, she helped me work through my existentialism and helped me reframe my relationship with my religion and God. and helped me kind of overcome these exposures as I was going through some health issues too, and um, helped me with that. And like it, now I'm to the point where, I can go get my blood taken and I don't have a panic attack, which is like not, I wasn't even able to do that like a year and a half ago. And I went on tour um earlier this year, and I had been building up to those couple of flights, and I did really good on the plane. And I don't remember if I cried on the way home or not, but I remember walking away feeling better about the whole situation, and that was huge. And um with my existentialism, that really took over my life last year. That was a big hyperfixation of mine, and just what is existence, and what if God's not real, and what if my family dies, and will I see them again or whatever. And she was able to help me um push forward with that, um and to almost just be able to accept uh that I have no control, which has been obviously really hard, but working to accept that. I wouldn't say I'm fully there yet. But so yeah, with where I'm at right now, I mean, I think I feel really confident in my capabilities and like capacity to handle OCD. Like, I don't think I will ever be without my hyperfixations or compulsions or um different different fears or whatever, but I'm able to say that I have the tools to make it so it's not debilitating. It doesn't like run my life anymore. Like, um, I'm able to feel like OCD doesn't have the complete power over me anymore, or feel like I'm constantly just looking for, that illusion of control in any situation. So I'm not perfect. I'm definitely still struggling with it. I mean, I think specifically with this move that Carson and I have to LA, that's triggered a lot of anxiety for me, specifically in losing control with, I mean, like not having full control over, um, I don't know, like what I'm doing day to day. And I don't know exactly what my life's gonna look like out there versus living in the same valley my entire life, and that has really been triggering for me. So I'm like still through the process of like working through um different fixations, but yeah, so I'd say the thing that has helped me the most is probably identifying my compulsions and having consistent exposures to work against them. Oh, and something that Tanya taught me that has, I think, really changed my life for NERs, non-engagement responses. That has really helped me a lot. I think specifically when I'm on the plane, I have this routine where I'm like really actively being aware of my thoughts, and um like if I have a thought that, oh, like the airplane could just fall out of the air right now, then I can use, the different categories of non-engagement responses where I could be like, well, that would suck, wouldn't it? Where you just kind of acknowledge like, yeah, that would suck. Or I could acknowledge the anxiety that's there. So I'd say, I am feeling anxious about the airplane crashing right now. So it's just acknowledging anxiety. But the whole point is to not ruminate and be stuck in that cycle and really just build up that anxiety, but to just stop that thought in its tracks and be like, all right, I accept that's there. I accept that I thought that, I accept that this situation would suck, blah 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 blah, and then go back to what you're doing. And then you have to do that over and over and over again, but eventually, OCD gives up with that. So I think that is kind of the biggest thing that has really helped me. Um, Along with something that Tanya also said was, um, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. that phrase has like really changed the way I view mm, OCD, because in my head, if I prepare myself by ruminating and hyperfixating and whatever, then it will hurt less when a family member dies, or if my husband leaves me, or if I get a brain tumor and I get cancer. So just like all that, but it doesn't actually change anything. It doesn't actually, me hyperfixating on it and actually like suffering in the present does not get rid of, the pain if that did happen, right? Like if I get a tumor 6 months from now, it's gonna suck just as much as if I, spent those 6 months thinking about it, or if I just lived my life. And so that has really honestly changed my thought process of like, oh, there really are things in life that you just can't prepare for, and it's just gonna suck no matter what. And um that's where suffering kind of comes from, is like I had so much pain from my parents' divorce, right? Like that sucked. Me, if I had like prepared for it my entire life, it wouldn't have changed how much it sucked, but I would have suffered a lot more than was like necessary. So, anyways, those are kind of the things that I've learned throughout this past year of just like accepting that, I'm human. I don't have magical powers through OCD to control things around me, even though I really wish that was the case. And that I can improve, I can change despite like trying for so long and not really having, I just didn't have the right tools in my toolkit, but now I do, and it's really just exponentially gotten so much better. And I don't have to be scared of my thoughts anymore. I think that is so incredible. I don't have to be scared of myself and these really dark places I get to, because I now understand why. And just having the why is also so freeing, because it's like, why am I in so much pain? Oh, it's because, you know, my thoughts are ruminating in such a way that of course I'm going to feel sad. If I'm hyper fixating on crashing in this plane, of course I'm going to feel distressed. Like any normal person would feel distressed about that. So, um, yeah. So those are kind of the things I've been focusing on, and I'm really sad. I had my last session with Tanya yesterday, and it was sad to say goodbye because she really has changed my life a lot, and I'm really grateful for her. And she really is a therapist that specializes in OCD, and so that's why I'm grateful I started up with her. And I'm hoping to continue the process out in LA, and continue finding a therapist that I also click with, and hopefully be able to fly someday without, you know, feeling depressed weeks leading up to it and having it be a really sad thing for me, and just get to the point where I can, like with going to the doctor's office, I can go alone now, and it doesn't have to be really anxiety inducing. And so like that's what I'm working up to. Airplanes and flying is kind of my big I don't know, scary thing, but I've been chipping away at it. And so I'm really hopeful about the progress that I've been making. So, yeah.
Bryn, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I think I speak for all of us here. You're such an inspiration. And a lot of that I feel like was really relatable too, and I think OCD is truly the intolerance of uncertainty, like everything, when people have OCD, it normally latches on to what you love, what you value, and uncertainty, and it latches onto it because we don't think, our brain doesn't think that we can handle it if the worst case scenario does happen, and I think it takes time and specialized therapy to kind of rewire your brain and show your brain by behaving that you can handle it, the anxiety that comes from these horrible thoughts, So I think what you talked about, how like you have the tools in your toolkit and you're still like, there are times where OCD is present in your life and you're still working towards it. I think that's a huge key, because even if you've gone through therapy, that doesn't mean that OCD will just disappear, you know? Like that's I wish it did, but unfortunately it just doesn't. And but you can still live the most beautiful and value-based life despite having OCD, you know? And you're doing that, you know, like you are living according to your values. You're moving with your husband, you're excelling in your career. Like there's so much going on. And, you know, you're practicing towards your values, which is the most important thing because OCD does not want to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how does music impact your mental health? Slash, does it?
Yes. I think for a long time it negatively impacted my mental health because, like you said, OCD latches on to what we care about. And so I cared about music. I cared about how people perceived me. And so it really latched onto it to the point where I was scared to perform or to be heard. And I mean, through exposure therapy and finally accepting that, like, okay, I have no control over how people view me and things just happen, I was able to really just lean into my love of music. And so, I mean, I grew up with music. I've always loved it. It's always been something that I feel like is kind of a pure form of self-expression for me. And so I think by like OCD was kind of in the way of that. And so once I was able to kind of use my tools or like overcome that, I was able to finally like really be my best form of self. And I think, I mean, with jazz and improv, like I think you can really hear like emotion and character through playing. And I think, you know, like from how much I've grown and learned, like I feel like I'm a really emotional, passionate person. And I've like through struggling with OCD, I've like just grown more into myself. And I think you can definitely hear that through my music. Is just that I feel like I have like I'm not the flashiest player. I've never have been, I never will be, but I'm a really emotional, soulful player. Um I don't know, like if you look at my videos even, you can see like I'm just like people always comment and they're like, "Is she okay?" And it's like, "No, I am." But like it's just like that's I'm really, I don't know, emotional and passionate with it and like really in the moment. And so before when I was really really struggling with like performance anxiety and stuff like that, I wasn't able to be in the moment and I didn't play my best and it was always it just got in the way. Like even if I still sounded good, the experience wasn't enjoyable for me because I was too focused on like what if I throw up? What if I throw up? What if I throw up? Blah 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 blah. But now I'm able to be like just in the moment and it when you're improvising and like it like communicating through a different instrument, it's like a really like powerful moment. And so I've been able to just like lean into that and have the saxophone be like an extension of me. Um, so yeah, if that does that answer your question? Is
I
that
love that. That was great. Thank you. We have some questions for you, Bryn, in the Q&A chat, and I thought we'd get started really fast. Someone asked, living with OCD, routines can sometimes feel both necessary and overwhelming. How did you find a balance in creating a saxophone practice routine that works for you, something that supports your focus and progress without triggering unhelpful patterns? Are there any specific strategies or habits that help you stay effective and grounded in your practice?
that's a good question. I feel like you, regardless of OCD, like all musicians kind of have a love-hate relationship with practicing. Because it's not fun. I mean, most of the time it's not fun. Um, that's a really good question. I mean, in high school, I mean during the summers I would practice up to 4 hours every day when I was like 16 or 17, which is honestly kind of crazy thinking about that. Um, but I don't think I was maybe in the right mindset. Like it was very guilt-based of like, okay, if I don't practice, then someone else is going to get ahead of me and then I'm not going to be enough and then I'm not going to accomplish enough. And it was really like connected to my worth as a person. um, which was obviously not healthy and um, made it so practicing was even more like of a burden and a chore. And um, I think now I've been able to, I mean, I'm still learning the best way to do it. I think getting a degree in music was not the best way to go, too, with that. It kind of, that's a whole other thing where I got pretty burnt out just doing music, but I think I've been able to balance playing. I only right now I have the routine of like practicing an hour and just really focusing on like a transcription that I love. And I find a lot of joy out of like learning. And that's what's been so great about social media is I only play what I want to play. And that has really been so awesome because it feels genuine to me. And I only because I'm only playing what I want to play, I'm only practicing what I want to practice. And so it's a routine that I do an hour at a time so I don't get burnt out and I'm just doing a transcription of one of my favorite saxophonists. I mean, sometimes like as a warm up, I'll like work on different licks that I'm trying to incorporate. Like lately I've been trying to memorize a new lick in all 12 keys and or incorporate that into my soloing. But that's not my focus. Like my focus is, okay, I want to sound like Michael Brecker. Like that's one of my favorite saxophonists. I'm gonna play along with him and it's fun. Like that's yeah. So hopefully that answers the question. I'm like I kind of refocus like what's my goal with this and I'm doing it in the amount of time that like feels digestible to me and I'm not doing what other people would expect me to do. I'm doing what feels genuine and like serves my love of music. If that hopefully
Yep.
answers.
That was perfect. That was a 10 out of 10 answer, I think. So thanks for sharing that. Next question. Did you deal with constant reassurance seeking and what helped you with that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I didn't even bring that up. Yes, that was a huge thing. I think specifically like in relationship OCD, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can be like, yes, that is a thing. Um, I have the best husband ever. I think he could honestly even talk for an hour on how to be married to someone with severe OCD. He's he's learned so much and really has been like so helpful in this process to me. Also, I will say, side note, having a partner who just like w wants to support you in every way, like after like every single session with my therapist, I would come home and like tell him what I learned. So then he could help me as I'm like, he's always with me in my most like stressful situations. Like Carson's always flying with me. And so like now, like on the plane, he'll be like, all right, let's practice your like NERs together. Like what are you thinking? What are the compulsions we're working on this trip? So that has like also I couldn't do it without him. So that I'm very grateful for him. But I would use Carson a lot of the time to like reassure me. I think it's specifically like early in our relationship before I knew I had relationship OCD. I felt really insecure and I would either ask him for reassurance all the time or um I would I would just like come up with these like things that I was mad about in my head and then I would just like not talk to him because I was so pissed at him, but he was just like oblivious. Anyways, um so that was something I've struggled with reassurance. I think maybe a downside of AI is ChatGPT and looking for reassurance there, right? I think specifically with um health things. I'll look
Yeah.
up on ChatGPT and be like, it's like it went from like, pre-ChatGPT is like you Google your symptoms and then Google says you're dying. And now you have like a person, Nidge, whatever, to talk to about it who also kind of says you're dying. So that was my reassurance thing that I've actually kind of leaned into a little bit lately. Like last year I had a really high, like intense fixation on breast cancer. And I would chat PT it all the time, or I would Google it, and my husband would be like, I'm taking away your phone because you can't watch a movie without Googling breast cancer. And I'm like, so I mean, okay, what was the question again? It's like about reassurance, and then what was the end of the question?
It was what helped you with that?
I mean, I think like you mentioned before, how w- you're like with OCD, OCD wants to tell you that you're not capable of dealing with the worst case scenario. And I think it's been allowing myself or like believing that I am.
Mhm.
Because the reassurance is like just your way of getting someone to say, it's okay, it's okay. It's the worst case scenario is not going to happen. And the way to get out of that is being able to say, like, okay, it might happen though. Like, I might have breast cancer. I mean, obviously, I'm going to take the um, normal steps, aka, you know, go get a mammogram or like go to a doctor and they can say whether or not this is concerning, which I did. And then they were like, no, you're fine. And I still didn't believe them. Right. So that was like where it got to be unreasonable. But my Tanya would always say, well, I'm gonna butcher this metaphor, but she was like, you wouldn't look okay, when you struggle with OCD, it's like you're like an eagle, like on a branch panicking that the branch is gonna break, right? And like just like hyper fixating on it and being like, I really hope this branch doesn't break. Like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But if the branch does break, you have wings. And that shows that like you could like still be okay, right? Like you could fly and like fly off the branch. Like I think OCD tells us like we don't have wings. We need to be stuck on this branch. Like this branch is what like we're not capable, you know? But we have wings, and she would always remind me, like, you have wings, even if the branch does break, you have wings and you're capable of working through it. And then I would be like, well, what if I die? Then that's not. And she's like, you would still be capable. You would just either not exist anymore and then you wouldn't have to worry about it, or you would be in heaven and then you would figure it out. And I'm like, I don't like that answer, but anyways. So I was able to, I mean, I'm still not perfect. I think people with OCD, especially relationship OCD, that's a huge thing, is like that's the compulsion is reassurance. But being able to say, you know, my husband might cheat on me and I'll deal with it if it happens. And
Yep.
being able to accept that. So,
And it's hard, I think people think it's an easy thing that if you don't have OCD to tell yourself that, and it's not. It's whenever that's your brain's literal worst fear and you're exposing yourself to it, that like, yeah, maybe this will come true, and it's challenging. So that's why like it takes the right therapy and the support to build your way up to it.
yeah,
So all right. Someone said, thank you so much for sharing your experience, strength, and hope.
that's sweet. Of course, I'm happy
And then someone said, I deal with health OCD. What helped you the most with your health OCD?
with my health OCD. That's a good question. I think, as I mentioned before, I've been having a lot of just health issues in general. I have struggled with really severe stomach pain for years, and I've gone, oh my gosh, so many tests. I've tried so many different medications. At first they were like, "Oh, it's stomach ulcers," and I tried all these different medications and nothing helped, and so I got an endoscopy, which is like my worst nightmare, where they put you under anesthesia, which I didn't like because I couldn't be in control of myself, right? And then they stick a freaking huge tube down your throat. Like that was a whole thing that I had to really work through. And then they thought I was diabetic for a minute, and even found some like I had some of the antibodies indicating I was diabetic and even got misdiagnosed with diabetes for a little bit. And then it was just thing after thing after thing, and I've been going to doctors for years. And I think through that, it was just exposure therapy, I guess, for me, and just being able to like, I mean, when I started going, like, I don't know, just so many tests and so many different drugs and different doctors and different like everything. I think I slowly just was able to um change my relationship with medicine. Because before I was like, oh, if I go to the doctors, then something's wrong with me. Like even just going in for the yearly checkup, I was so anxious. Like just like a normal thing. Like I didn't have any symptoms, I didn't have anything. I was just like, oh my gosh, what if they find a brain tumor by looking at me and then I die? Like it's just like I don't know. So with the health anxiety, I mean, I had like actual issues that I didn't figure out. Turns out now I just figured it out. It's my diet and it's dairy. And I've been lactose intolerant for a while and nobody could figure it out. And so now I just can't have cheese. And it's like that simple. But anyway, so exposure, I think if I wasn't going through like an actual health journey, I'd probably be pretty like far behind on it since I didn't have all those exposures. So
Right.
I would probably say with that, I mean, it would probably have to be like acceptance and, well, radical acceptance, I guess.
Mhm.
And same idea of like, all right, I could get breast cancer, I could get cancer, I could get a brain tumor, I could die, but like my stuff, like that pain is not gonna change from suffering for it right now. So it's like that
Right.
radical acceptance with that.
Right. Love that. And I think there may be some people here that don't know what ERP is, or exposure therapy, what she's talking about. So ERP is exposure response prevention therapy. It's the gold standard treatment for OCD. And actually at NOCD, all of our therapists are specialized in ERP therapy. We treat, in all the states, we have 60, over 60 insurance plans now, which is awesome. And actually, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we have a really amazing, unique, and limited opportunity for you guys that I want to share because I'm super passionate about it. If you're listening to this and you are struggling with, mental compulsions, intrusive thoughts, and you're debilitated or you just don't know what's going on, you don't know if it's OCD, I've been there and it sucks. So for this Mental Health Awareness Month, our clinical experts here at NOCD, including Dr. McGrath, he's our chief clinical officer, and other leaders here at NOCD, they're running an exclusive free 15-minute one-on-one consultation call through the end of this month, so the end of May. And there's limited availability. So we're going to drop a link in the chat. And it's just 15 minutes where you're not only talking to OCD specialists, but these are the experts in the field and they're dedicating time to just get to listen to you and hopefully provide some sort of answer. And you can ask them questions about how diagnosis works or what treatment may look like or what living with OCD looks like. It's private and it's free. And we're super passionate about helping the community. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and we just want to spread awareness. And so these leaders don't get to do this that often. There's limited availability, and if you are looking for, your next step, or you're wondering if I have OCD or just struggling, please give us a call. We'd be so happy to talk to you. They'd be so happy to talk to you. I think I'm speaking for me and Bryn, doing the right type of therapy, or at least learning what you're going through, is life-changing. So if you want to talk to our team, there's a link in the chat, and feel free to book a call through the end of this month, but there is limited availability. So try to do that as soon as possible. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. And Bryn, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and talking about your OCD story and where you're at now. And I think it was really inspiring to me. And I love how you continue to live towards your values, despite it being challenging sometimes, because you're showing that you're stronger than OCD by doing that.
Of course, yeah, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy I could just yap for an hour. I never had
We
this.
love we
Like
love
I'm
a
so
good yap
happy.
session.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, thank you.
Well, and do you want to share your social media for people?
Yes, yeah. If you guys want to listen to me, my social media is at Brynners Music. So BRYNNERS and then music. And I actually just released an EP yesterday. So if you want to hear the emotion that I was talking about in my playing, it's the EP is called Mrs. Lucky. My my like artist name is just my regular name. So Bryn Ripley. You can find me on any streaming service. So yeah.
Yay. Can't wait to listen to your music after this.
Yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think.
Yes. If you're interested in following NOCD on social media, we're at Treat My OCD. And happy Mental Health Awareness Month to everyone. So glad you're able to make it. And this has been recorded. So we'll send this recording link out to you guys if you want to share it with your friends, family, let them know about the consultation calls. Awareness is key. So thank you, Bryn, for being an OCD awareness girl. So we really appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a great rest of your Wednesday.
Yeah. All right. Well, yes, happy to. All right. Well, I hope I talk to you soon, Brenna.
Yes. I'll see you soon, Bryn. Thank you so much for everything.